Okay, Alexander, we have got to talk about the big news, and that is the passing away of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we wanted to wait a day while she passed away because we're going to focus. You're going to say a couple of things about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but we're going to focus a lot more on the politics now at play. And I think the narrative after the one day since she passed away, now I think the narrative has shifted very quickly to the strategies involved and at play as we're heading into the elections on November 3rd, and the politics now at play as well. A lot of question marks. A lot of people are game planning this thing out. I'm going to read you 4 tweets that I've pulled up, Alexander, which I think frame the scenario very well. And the first tweet comes from Josh Kaplan. New York Times, President Donald Trump told Senator Mitch McConnell that his top choices for SCOTUS seat are Judges Amy Coney Barrett, Barbara Lagoa, and Amul Thapa. I actually read a Fox News report that says it's now down to 2 people that are in the front-running position, and that's Amy Coney Barrett and Barbara Lagoa. That's what Fox News recently published. A tweet from Ned Ryan. Just a reminder, GOP can lose Murkowski, Romney, and Collins and still confirm a SCOTUS nomination. Pence would be the 51st vote. A tweet from Sean Davis. The time between the formal Supreme Court nomination of Sandra Day O'Connor and her final Senate confirmation was 33 days, August 19th to September 21st, 1981. For John Paul Stevens, the formal process took only 19 days, November 22nd to December 17, 1975. There are 46 days until the election. Now there's 45. And from Molly Hemingway, you can disagree with the McConnell rule, which was previously known as the Biden rule, but you should describe it accurately. You should describe it accurately. This is important. It's no confirmations in a presidential election year when the Senate and presidency are held by different parties. Doesn't apply this year. It's no confirmations in a presidential year when Senate and presidency are held by different parties. Alexander, what do you make of the 4 tweets I read you just now?
Right. Well, first of all, I'm going to go a bit further than this. I don't think this so-called Biden rule exists at all. I mean, there've been politics about this before, but as far as I'm concerned, if the president nominates a candidate for a place on the Supreme Court and the Senate votes for that person becomes an assistant justice of the Supreme Court. There is no rule which says that the president can't nominate a assistant justice in the weeks before an election. There is no rule that I'm aware of that says that can't happen when the president and the Senate are from different parties. Previously, on other occasions, not just the Republicans, but the Democrats also have played games with political timing of candidates. And that is completely understandable, given how partisan politics has become in the United States, how divided people are within the United States. But we should not give credence to a rule which is a pure fiction. It has no reality to it. If Donald Trump tomorrow nominates one of the people that you mentioned as an assistant justice of the Supreme Court, the Senate, it seems to me, is completely authorized to confirm that person. And that can be done very quickly before the election, as has happened before. Now, I'm going to come to that, the mechanics of that quickly, but I do want to quickly say something about Ginsburg, because I know that she's a person that people have very strong feelings about. And I'm going to say this briefly. I think she was a person who, as a practicing lawyer, was a very, very powerful and passionate advocate for the causes that she believed in. I don't think she ever evolved into a proper judge, a Supreme Court justice. There is a major difference between being an advocate, which is what a legal practitioner is, and being an actual justice, not just a justice of the Supreme Court, but a Court of Appeal justice or whatever. This is not to deny her, achievements as an advocate or as a practicing lawyer. But as I said, I don't think she ever grasped or really was able to grasp the difference. And when I read some of her dissenting opinions, of famous dissenting opinions, they read to me like advocacy rather than the measured judgment that a justice should do. That's a crucial difference. It's not always well understood. An advocate states that his or her opinions about what the law should be. An assistant justice is the voice of the law. It is a crucial difference. She never understood it. As her great friend, Antonin Scalia, a much greater jurist, always did. So that's what I'm going to say about her. I just wanted to make that clear. As I said, a brilliant lawyer, not, in my opinion, a particularly successful Supreme Court justice, and somebody who definitely hugely overstayed her time, which Barack Obama tried to point out to her. Now, about all of this, about the actual nominations now, as I said why I don't think this rule exists. I think there is nothing to prevent Donald Trump nominating a candidate. Now, it seems to me that whatever happens in the presidential election, the Senate is in the balance. I think if the Republicans have two brain cells to rub together, they will go ahead and carry this nomination and confirmation process through now. And I think the people that Trump is nominating, who, I'm not going to start weighing and saying, I think this person or that person or the other person. I don't have the knowledge of these people to be able to say. But I think this thing that stands out about them is that they're all women. And I am sure that is in part intended, there are no doubt other factors as well, to prevent that nomination being derailed or slowed down by the kind of spurious allegations that came very close to wrecking the Kavanaugh nomination. So I think from that point of view, these are sensible and wise decisions from a political point of view, but this gives the opening to the Republicans to shape the future of the Supreme Court if they grasp it and if they act quickly. If they delay, if we see games being played in the Senate by some Republican senators saying, we're rushing too far ahead, we should abide by this non-existent rule that, you mentioned at the beginning, if we wait until after the election is done, or worse still, wait after the new president, whoever that might be, is inaugurated in January, then I think they could very well lose this chance, because I'm not sure that the Republicans are going to hold the Senate. You mentioned several senators who are in trouble. I would add to that list, there's talk now about Lindsey Graham as well. Notice Romney, Lindsey Graham, and Collins were all three senators who've had issues and problems with Donald Trump, which I suspect is a large factor in the problems they are having, in the sense that I think that the Republican base is less than enthusiastic about coming out to vote for them, which probably explains why they are in trouble. But it seems to me it's possible that the Republicans could lose 4, not 3 Senate seats in November, in which case the Senate could very well be lost to them, in which case also they may not be able to get through the candidate of their choice come January. So, I think they should do it now. I think they should get it over with. I think if they get a successful Supreme Court nomination done between now and November, it will give further traction to Trump and indeed to the Republican senators. come the November election. That's my analysis.
Yeah, I think this rule, this Mitch McConnell Biden rule that the Democrats, the left, are now throwing out there, that you shouldn't go through the process until after the election. These are playground rules. I mean, it's not like this is not a law, set in stone. These are playground rules. So should the Republicans decide to honor those playground rules, should they be that stupid to honor those playground rules, then they risk losing this opportunity, because the Senate is very much in the balance, and it could be an even split in the Senate if things turn out the way they're looking. So there's no reason for the Republicans to go through with honoring that.
No, I don't think it's any kind of rule at all. Yeah. It's just things that, as you said, a playground rule.
It's playground rules.
People said this. I mean, there've been political battles about Supreme Court nominations before. People have come up, got on their high horses and podiums and said all kinds of things. But I don't think personally that these carry any weight whatsoever. There is no law or rule, procedural or legal or constitutional, which says that the president can't nominate a candidate as assistant as a justice of the Supreme Court now, and no rule, as far as I'm aware, which says that the Senate can't confirm that person. So do it now and get it done.
Just the opposite. They have an obligation to fill that seat, especially now as you're heading into an election. And I think the more I've been thinking about this, I don't think the Trump White House or the Republicans or the country, the United States of America, really has much of a choice. They have to get someone to fill that seat, because as the election is moving forward and Trump wins the Electoral College on November 3rd, and the Democrats do put in motion their Red Mirage plan, which they're going to do. They've admitted it, and they've actually started to get it into motion. We know that the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania has passed laws extending the mail-in ballots. We know Michigan has done the same. We also know that Pennsylvania has also passed a law saying that even if signatures don't match, the signature on record with the signature on the ballot, you still have to count the ballot. In other words, ignore the signature on record. We know they've passed that law as well. So the Democrats are getting the Red Mirage plan in order. They're getting it in order, and they're going to put it into motion. You could end up, Alexander, with a scenario where the election ends, you have 2-3 weeks of battling, and then the lawyers step in, and eventually it finds its way to the Supreme Court. And in the Supreme Court, you have 8 judges, and you have a Roberts who's wobbly. Judge Roberts is wobbly. So say Roberts wobbles to the left, you may end up with a 4-4 split. So they have an obligation to fill that seat for the good of the Republic, because you can't have a 4-4 split in the Supreme Court. You put the United States of America in jeopardy, don't you? You have to fill that seat.
Well, I mean, let's put it slightly differently. From the point of view of the Republicans, you would have thought that given how dangerous the situation is looking in November with all these Red Mirage stories, given that, as I said, legal challenges are now definitely coming, you have a priority to the United States, but definitely to your own voters, to get this nomination confirmed, so that you have a stable Supreme Court that can actually produce a decision. Because if you don't have a decision, I mean, we're going to be in an even deeper crisis. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, by the way, this makes this issue, but this issue of the Red Mirage, and we did a video recently about how even The Guardian is confirming that the Democrats are assembling an army of lawyers, which tells you it's going to go to the Supreme Court, because when people are talking about armies of lawyers, the Supreme Court of the United States is definitely going to be involved. I mean, the idea of having a divided court in this kind of atmosphere is an absolute nightmare. I mean, it is a political, and I mean, I can't even begin to say how disastrous that would be. So a Supreme Court with a stable majority able to make a decision, and so that the country can move forward and deal with these problems in an orderly way. It seems to me absolutely there's the obligation to do that. There's perhaps the moral duty to the United States. There is definitely, it seems to me, a overriding political calculus that requires them to do this, and political rules, as I said, of the Biden, Mitch McConnell type, which don't exist and which are fictions. I mean, convenient fictions that were invented during previous political battles. I mean, in a time like this, I mean, they shouldn't wait for anything because they don't exist. They have no reality.
Yeah, if the Democrats had the White House, they would move forward. There's no doubt about it.
Well, of course they would, and so should the Republicans. I mean, I'm not. This seems to be obvious. One of the problems is, and I just say this quickly. I mean, the Democrats have always been much more ruthless about pursuing these kind of things than the Republicans are. The Republicans go around dithering, they say that you will always find some people on the Republican side who say, well, we've got to think, on the one hand and on the other hand. And whereas the Democrats, say what you want about them, they go straight directly to the point. And that's the fundamental difference at this time between these two parties. And frankly, if they do that, if they allow those kind of considerations, which are not even real considerations, I mean, these are fictitious considerations, to cloud their judgments at a time like this, they're certainly failing their party and their voters, and they're failing the country as well, because they are, let's face it, the ruling party, and they should rule. I mean, that's what a ruling party is supposed to do.
I agree. The Democrats are, when it comes to stuff like this, the Democrats, they fall in line and they're killers when it comes to stuff like this. They're absolute killers. But let's talk a little bit now about the politics involved and the benefits of having that seat open. And I mean, I think there's advantages on both sides. I think the advantages tip towards the Trump campaign, but there's definitely advantages on both sides as we enter November 3rd. And I've kind of got a little bit of a list, and you can comment on it and elaborate on it. I think from the Republican side, from the Trump campaign side, and some of these may be a little frivolous, some of these may be very serious advantages. Number one, I was watching that North Carolina rally, and I saw the crowd chanting, "Fill that seat, fill that seat, fill that seat." They were chanting. So I think on a marketing standpoint, it gives Trump kind of another slogan, build that wall, lock her up, fill that seat. Once again, it gives like another battle cry, which once again provides energy to the base, gets people pumped up, gets people out to vote. So I think that's an interesting dynamic. It's a plus. Getting more serious now, I think the fact that he is nominating, that it looks like he will nominate a woman, kind of broadens out the potential to tap into the female vote, especially suburban female vote. One of the women that he's considering is even Hispanic, so from Florida. So that could wrap up Florida if he does go with Barbara Lagua, who's from Florida, Hispanic. That could wrap up Florida. The fact that they're both, two of the women involved are Roman Catholics. You could be looking at locking up a larger Catholic vote there. I don't know. These are all, I'm just throwing it out there. So the fact that he is going to go with a woman, may give Trump a little bump with the female vote. But it also acts as a third type of running mate for Trump. So now he has Pence, but now he's going to take this candidate for the Supreme Court and run with her all the way till November. So he has Pence, it's Trump, and now he's going to throw that name out continuously. It's like a third running mate for him as he campaigns. Now, on the Democrat side, I think they're going to frame this very much as a Roe v. Wade vote. So now they get the opportunity to say, forget about Biden. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually said it in a statement yesterday. She said, I don't care if you hate Biden or you don't like him and he doesn't energize you. Who cares? This is about Roe v. Wade, pretty much. I don't know if she actually said Roe v. Wade, but she said about our democracy, our rights as women, blah, blah, blah. She said this is about Roe v. Wade. So I think the Democrats will try to frame this election as a vote for Roe v. Wade, even though I think it's worthy to point out that both Barrett and Lagua have said they don't have any predisposition to rule against Roe v. Wade for the time being. It hasn't really come to mind. And let me read you something from Axios with what some Democrats have said. This is from Axios. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer is hoping that this election will make him Senate Majority Leader. Chuck Schumer can be expected to fight ferociously against a rocket docket confirmation. So as you said, Chuck Schumer is saying he would like to be the Senate Majority Leader. Even more reason for the Republicans to get this moving. Joe Biden told reporters when he landed in Wilmington last night, the voters should pick the president and the president should pick the justice for the Senate to consider. That's a direct quote. Hillary Clinton said she called for a fierce response, telling MSNBC's Rachel Maddow that Democrats should do everything possible to stall and stop whatever McConnell puts out of his hat. AOC also called on people to pretty much get out of the streets, to get radicalized. She said, Howard Wolfson, a Mike Bloomberg strategist who's a veteran of Senate campaigns, wrote in the Daily Biscuit newspaper, quote, the Supreme Court has typically motivated Republicans far more than Democrats. That will absolutely not be the case this election. That will be Ruth Bader Ginsburg's final legacy. So it goes once again to what I said, that the Democrats will definitely use this as a motivating factor to get them to the polls, regardless of how you feel about Biden. They're going to say, who cares about Biden? This is all about RBG and Roe v. Wade. Alexander.
Well, I can see absolutely no political benefit to Trump or the Republicans by delaying this decision. I'm going to say that straight away. I think the only possible scenario where it might work out well for Trump would be if he nominated a candidate and if some people in the Republican Party dithered, as in the way that I said, and failed to see this thing through. At that point, Trump would be able to say, here is my candidate. This is an outstanding jurist. This is exactly the kind of person I want in the Supreme Court. He can then say to his Republican base, this is my candidate. This is your candidate. This is the kind of person you should support. Vote for me in November. Vote for a Republican Senate, because at that point, I will be able to, mobilize and get this person confirmed. And that would mean, to some extent, running against some people in his own party. But I think that Trump showed in 2016 that he can do that very successfully. So I think that, I see no advantage to Trump in delaying a nomination like that. I don't really see any advantage to the Republicans either in delaying a confirmation. I think, on the contrary, if a candidate is nominated and then confirmed, that will, inspire the Republican base, tell them that they have a strong activist president who's, able to do these things, and more likely motivate them to come out. By contrast, if there's an actual Supreme Court justice in being, I suspect a lot of Democrats would be demoralized, and that might affect the outcome of the election even more. So I see all the advantage to Trump in doing this now. He might gain traction. As I said, he might gain some traction if some of the Republicans dither. But delaying this is going to do exactly what you said. It's going to give the Democrats something to fight for too, which is separate from Biden, who, to be very clear, is uninspiring. So I would have thought, from every conceivable political point of view, the Republicans only gain by sorting this thing out now. Trump might be able to claw something back, electorally speaking, if some of the Republicans wobble, which would be stupid of them to do. But I definitely think that the optimal strategy for Trump and for the Republicans in the Senate is for Trump to come up with a credible candidate. And as far as I know, these people are credible candidates. And you explained why some of these people tick important boxes. A woman reaching out to women voters, a Hispanic possibly reaching out to Hispanic voters, a Catholic. Remember, Biden is supposed to be a Catholic, but that's he's finding it difficult to reconcile that with some of his known positions on all kinds of things. So, you can do it. You can reach out to people in that way, but it still seems to me that you win better and more completely and have greater chance of holding on to the Senate if you do this thing now than if you delay. There's a very famous quote by, not famous, but there was a quote that always stood out for me, and it's from Machiavelli, by the way, the prince, which is that a prince who delays a battle which he has to fight because of, thinks that he can delay it, to gain some advantage, always does so to his disadvantage. And it seems to me this is clearly the time to strike now. I think, by the way, Trump knows that. So I think he will do it. What Mitch McConnell is going to do, I have absolutely no idea. But, this is where, as I said, Schumer and the Democrats, give them their due, they have the killer instinct. Some Republicans, unfortunately, don't. And that's why they're in trouble. So that's my clear view about this. I think do it, get it done now. That's from the Republican point of view. They have everything to gain. They energize their base. They demoralize their opposition because, Biden isn't even going to be even able to pack the Supreme Court. That's what they've said, whatever. So why bother to come out for him? You see, that's the sort of feeling I suspect a lot of Democrats would have. I mean, they would go in with a sense of defeat as well. So get it done now. And of course, if you have to worry about all of these red mirage scenarios, then it's in your interests to have a stable Supreme Court in November, so that when you get all the legal challenges, it's able to make a decision, which obviously the interests of the Republic require. So I see no benefit in putting this off. Now, that's clear to me. It's, I suspect, clear to Trump. Whether it's clear to the Republicans in the Senate, I don't know. But I come back to what I said. Look at the Republicans who are in trouble. Collins, Lindsey Graham, and Romney. What stand did they take? They went against Trump at various times, and now they're in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also crystal clear, and I think you're 100% right. Rip off that Band-Aid, get it done. Yeah. Diffuse the Democrats' talking points and the energizing that they'll get from making this a Roe v. Wade thing.
Absolutely.
Diffuse all of that stuff.
Absolutely.
Get it over with, and then ride into the elections.
Yes.
With the mantra that you get things done, i.e., we got another Supreme Court justice there. That's the best message you can send.
Absolutely. Given how, and I'm sorry, this is, by the way, I mean, it's a point that I get to make as somebody who lives in Britain, given how politically charged judicial appointments in the United States have become to the Supreme Court as much as everywhere else, which I find very, very difficult to understand and very, very bad. But given that is the reality in the United States, given that this election is now going to turn on the Supreme Court justice appointment, do it now. When you diffuse the bomb, or if you like, plant the bomb under the Democrats by getting the nomination out of the way now. Then you get Democrats angry with Schumer for not blocking it, questioning why Biden, wasn't what is the point of him then? Because I'm sure there are lots of Democrats who say to themselves, we need Biden because he may be useless in every other respect, but at least he'll help us regain or retain control of the Supreme Court. But if he's not even able to do that, what's the point of him?
Yeah. And you take away their other campaign talking point right away. Absolutely. You just don't make it about the Supreme Court by getting that judge in place. Absolutely. Because that's where they're gonna bet on it. Yeah. AOC has already come out and said, this is it. Everyone get out and vote. Who cares about Joe Biden? This is about RBG's legacy.
Absolutely. And as I said, and if you feel you have to explain yourself and explain why you're doing something different now from what you did in 2016, well, you can always split hairs and say, well, it's because the Senate and the presidency are in the hands of the same party.
Yeah.
Your politicians are supposed to be good at that kind of thing. It's their job. I'm sorry, that sounds very cynical. But as I said, let's not get intimidated by a fictitious rule which does not exist. I mean, this is I can absolutely say that when James Madison and all the others were writing the Constitution, they never imagined a rule like that. So I mean, let's not as I said, scare ourselves with phantoms, because that is a phantom. I mean, it's a relic of political battles fought long ago. In 2016, by the way, in politics is an age. Let's not waste time with those.
It's also interesting to finish up that by getting say Roberts does go left. Let's just take it for granted. Because it's not even definite he's going to go left. I think he would side with Trump, but say he does. Yeah. You still have a 5-4. Yeah. It's also, outside of demoralizing the Democrats and the Red Mirage plan, where they sit there and say, even if we go through all this trouble with mail-in ballots to steal the election, we're still going to end up at a 5-4. Don't you also demoralize the lawyers and the army of lawyers? Don't you demoralize the social media companies, the mainstream media companies who say, we're going to sit there and say, Zuckerberg's going to say, okay, guys, I'm going to censor every mention of the election after November 3rd. For what? So we can go to the Supreme Court and get a 5-4 ruling? Why would I do that?
Well, exactly. And of course, you're absolutely right. And that's another powerful reason for doing it now. And by the way, I'm going to say something else. It won't be a 5-4. It will be 6-3 because Roberts is going to go with the majority.
Yeah,
that's what he does. So, I mean, let's not, as I said, I mean, it's absolutely clear. It will diffuse the whole thing. It seems to me this is a gift. Sometimes, the fates give you a gift. There's that wonderful. There is a quote from Shakespeare. There is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune. There is a tide here. It's coming into flood, and you can surf it. You can serve it to the White House, to the Senate, to the Supreme Court. You throw away these opportunities; they don't come back. They really don't come back. If the Republicans botch this one, they will pay a price for it. Even
the entire United States.
Absolutely, well, the entire United States will, but they will pay a price for it. They could pay a price for it in a major constitutional crisis. Not just constitutional, a major, massive existential crisis for the United States in the autumn. And even if, Trump gets reelected and, becomes president and manages to get through all of that and is inaugurated in January, if the Republicans have lost the Senate, then, as I said, there's another 2 years of deadlock ahead. So, I can't see any advantage, none at all, to delay. All my instincts. If I was advising Trump, I don't think Trump needs my advice, but if I was advising Mitch McConnell and the others, I would tell them. I was advising Romney, which inconceivable, by the way, but I would say to him, back the Republicans, get this done, get a candidate for Supreme Court justice now. It will help your re-election bid, because then some of your Republican base might start to see a point in you. They probably don't at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. The Lord works in mysterious ways. There's another quote,
never look away from his gifts.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a cruel way, perhaps, to speak. In light of RBG's death. I mean, when she's a human being, and as I said, I'm fully acknowledge her achievements as a practicing lawyer and as an advocate, as a judge, as a Supreme Court justice. I've said what I think about her. I said I think she never lost the side of her that was an advocate. She never evolved into a judge. But regardless of that, you've got to be pragmatic. You've got to be realistic.
This is real politics.
This is real politics. This is the future of the republic that is at stake, and you also have to keep faith, if you're a Republican, with the people who are voting for you in your own party. I always remember, I've used to advise my aunt who was in politics, and we always this thing used to come up that always mind your base. And we learned that. This is in Greece. We learned that from the Americans, that you always mind your base. You always care for your base. Margaret Thatcher used to talk about that in the same way in Britain. And if the Republicans have forgotten that, then that will be a disaster for them. They will pay a terrible price for it.
Yeah, absolutely. History turns on events like this and the decisions made afterwards.
Absolutely.
That's why this is so important. This is a history-changing event, and it could go really well. It could go really bad.
If the Republicans mess this one up, they will be paying a price for this, and the United States could be paying a price for this too, for generations to come. I mean, this is one of those key moments in history, in the history of the United States.
All right, we'll leave it there. Alexander Mercouris, thank you very much, guys. If you like this video, click on that red subscribe button. Also, make sure to like this video and share this video. When you like a video and share the video, it really helps us out a lot. You also help us out a lot when you donate to us on PayPal, Patreon, and Subscribestar. Your donations helps this small channel so we can report the news to you, even breaking historical news like this topic we did today. And go to the Duran shop, pick up some merchandise. I got 2 hats, Alexander. This is that I just got the other day. This is my Switzerland embroidered hat. You can see the double-headed eagle and the Swiss flag, and it's embroidered.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it's got the nice back there. And I have the other one real quick. And I haven't even taken off the tags. This is my
Poland.
This is it's black on black. I don't know if you can see it.
Absolutely, I can see
the
it clearly.
Black embroider on the black, and of course you have the red and white Polish flag, and it's a snapback. So snapback means it just boom comes apart as a snapback. And actually, someone sent me an email, and they actually gave me the circumference of their head, and I have to measure it out. But I mean, the thing opens up and it gets pretty big. I mean, it gets pretty wide. So anyway, that's some new merchandise that I got the other day, Alexander.
And indeed, and I, by the way, have got other merchandise in my hand. You can see I'm drinking tea from a mug, and it's got the flag of the United States, which is the republic that we are talking about as of this moment. And so is Alex. You see, this is a issue that concerns the fate of the republic, and this is the flag of that republic, and it's on our mugs. And of course, we've got other amazing mugs too, with the flags of many other nations and countries. Undoubtedly, your flag will be there before long. And I would add, by the way, when I say your flag, if you're from the United States, you will find before long more and more flags with your own state on them, not just that of the United States, but your own state. We've already, I think, got a mug with the flag of Texas. So there will be other flags too. So come to our shop and see all of those. We've got porcelain mugs in different sizes. This is a flag with a smaller mug with the flag of Greece, and we've got enameled mugs too. This is an enameled mug with the flag of England, and Alex showed you these amazing hats, and we've got truckers' hats and baseball caps, and obviously embroidered hats and hats with the flags of countries, and we've got our amazing shirts. And some of you will have noticed I've got a new shirt, long-sleeved shirt, slate-colored, embroidered double-headed eagle of the Duran there, but more and more of them with the flags of nations too. And they are superb shirts, and 100% cotton, enormously comfortable. And we have polo shirts and t-shirts and long sleeve t-shirts and short sleeve t-shirts. And we've got hoodies as well, amazing hoodies, and an extraordinary gallery of ebooks. If you come to our shop, I'm going to tell you this, it is expanding massively. Alex has got this wonderful new range of products up. You will find wonderful and Aladdin's cave of marvelous things in our shop. So come to our shop, support the Duran. You support us when we give you this kind of analysis. Where else do you get an analysis like the one you've just heard? So come to the Duran, support us, come to our shop. Alex will tell you how.
Just go down below into the description box and you'll find a link for the Duran shop. Alexander Mercouris, thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.